It's time for the Unnamed SWTOR Podcast, a podcast so good it doesn't need a name. So without any further ado, here's your host, JD. Take it away, Johnny.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to episode 50 of the Unnamed SWTOR Podcast, recorded on July 6th, 2014. I'm your host, JD, aka Galactic, and in today's episode, we finally have something of substance to talk about, because Bioware has given up some of the goods on Galactic Strongholds. They released a devlog on Wednesday, and then did a live stream, which I was very surprised by. It was actually pretty informative. There's still some major questions that have to be answered, but I'm going to talk about the devlog, the stream, and then any outstanding questions that I do have. Happy 4th of July to all my listeners in the US of A. I had a great weekend. It is hot as hell right now. I'm going to try and do this episode as quickly as possible because I have to do it with the air conditioning off, and I am sweating my butt off right now. So let's talk fast, get moving, and force leap right in.
Red 2, I've got a topic coming in hot, requesting clearance to engage.
Lock as foils and attack positions. You are cleared to discuss. So first, let's start off by breaking down the devlog that we got last Wednesday. This one was from Jesse Sky, lead designer on Galactic Strongholds. There's a nice little preamble here, so I'm gonna go ahead and read that. Have you ever dreamed of having a home in the Star Wars galaxy? I mean, a real home, a place you can look forward to returning to after a long journey through the cold depths of space. A place that you can retreat to in times of darkness, to meditate on your next move, or to plot your revenge. A place you can share with your closest friends or flaunt to your rivals. Above all, a place of power and significance that you can customize and call your own. We share that dream and intend to make it a reality with our next free digital expansion, Galactic Strongholds. Now that's a pretty weighty preamble there, but from what we've seen, they may be delivering on that. Next we had an introduction on Strongholds. We learned that at level 15, that's when you can get your first Stronghold, the Strongholds on Coruscant and Dromund Kaas. There will be a mission there, and you can go ahead and buy your Stronghold through that system. We can see a little bit of the UI, obviously not final. All of this is on early builds of their on the dev server. This may not be how it looks when it finally releases, but for what we can see there's a directory where it has purchase and public listings. And public listings I'm really excited about, but I'll talk about that when we get to it. You also see the personal guild and keyring. We know the guild ships are coming. They have not given any information about those yet, which is what I'm really excited about, but based on the information that they've given us on Strongholds themselves, I'm really hopeful for what guild starships could look like. I think they could be really cool looking, and they could have some really interesting stuff there for a guild to do. Make for some great guild events, things like that. You also have the keyring, which we'll talk about also with public listings, and then you have your personal score and your guild score. This is the prestige score based on the number of items in your Stronghold. I feel like I'm kind of jumping around here, but I guess whatever. I'll just do it, because it's my show and I can do whatever I want. The thing with the scoring that I've seen so far is that the scoring is solely based on the number of items that you have, which I don't really like. I would much prefer if it was a community score, a community-based score, because players will be able to check out your Stronghold. With the public listings, as they've stated, you'll be able to browse through everyone, I guess, on your server. They haven't really mentioned how it's broken down. I assume that it's just your server that you'll be able to browse through, but that seems like it would be a lot of different Strongholds, but they are sorted by your prestige score, which is only based on the number of items you have. I do wish that there was some kind of community-based score and a community-based leaderboard almost, because there will be. The public listings are basically the leaderboards for Galactic Strongholds. I kind of wish they would add a community-based leaderboard so you can see not the one that's packed the most stuff in, because probably the one that packs the most stuff into the Stronghold, even though they're enormous, the person who packs the most in there is probably going to have the tackiest, dumbest looking one. I would much prefer that the players that take the time to think about how to set up their house, how to make it look the best, would get to the top of the leaderboard by voting. Obviously, that does lead to some players being able to collude to get their house upvoted and things like that, but I think overall it would be a much better system if the public listings were based on a community score. I also think that it would be really cool, or it will be really cool, if there is a guild listings. They haven't mentioned that at all. I haven't seen anything talking about a guild public listings, but I think a public listing for guilds to gain prestige based on what they've accomplished. It's kind of like being able to put your guild's achievements up on the walls, and they've said that there will be decorations that are earned from achievements, like doing high-end PvP or high-end PvE. So being able to post those on the wall and have players come in and see your achievements, have players come in and admire your trophy wall and see all the great things that your guild has done, I think that would be very cool as well. Again, we haven't heard anything about that, but hopefully we will at some point in the future. And then there's the keyring system, which I was very surprised by. Overall, I think that the community portion of Galactic Strongholds, from what they've said so far, obviously not out yet, so things could change. It could be terrible. From what they've laid out, I'm very excited for the community aspects of Galactic Strongholds. So the keyring system allows you to share the key to your stronghold, which makes sense, to any player that you want. If you have a friend online, a guildie, acquaintance, I don't know, whoever else you want to share your key ring with, a buddy you meet at a bar. And with a key, a player is able to access your stronghold even while you're offline. So you don't have to be online, they can be hanging out in your house. They can't do anything, per se. So they can't mess up your beautifully laid out stronghold, but they can hang out there, do whatever there is to do in your stronghold, invite other players with the proper parameters set, and you can change these. They can even invite people to your stronghold while you're offline. They can do things like that. So basically, they are subletting your stronghold so they can hang out there even when you're not online, which I think is a great idea. It's a great way not only for friends to hang out with your other friends, I think it's great for Bioware in that subscribers can invite their free-to-play player friends to their houses and show them how cool their stronghold can look, and possibly get them to buy decorations, buy packs, and even subscribe. That's a possibility there, and I'm all for any way Bioware goes about trying to get friends of subscribers to subscribe. I think that's good for player retention. I think it's good for Bioware. It's good all around. So some really cool stuff there. I'm excited to see more on Galactic Strongholds. They did show us more in the live stream, which I'll be talking about after the break in the next segment. But overall, I'm impressed with what they've done with Strongholds. They're starting to show that they've earned that delay, that the delay of Galactic Strongholds has done wonders for the system, for the expansion, that it's going to be a very full-fledged housing system that a lot of players are going to enjoy. So that's most of what we learned from the devlog. They didn't really say anything about the guild stuff. They didn't really say anything about the legacy storage, so those will come in future devlogs and future live streams. But in this week's live stream, they focused mainly on decorations and the real nuts and bolts of Strongholds. So we're going to talk about hooks, we're going to talk about layouts, we're going to talk about the Nar Shaddaa penthouse? I think it's Nar Shaddaa penthouse, whatever it's called, the Nar Shaddaa Stronghold. We'll talk about that after the break. And then there was the dev stream, which came after they released the devlog, and since a picture tells 1,000 words, it was far more enlightening than the release of the devlog. There were two of the developers from Bioware, as well as Eric Musco from the community team, moderating some questions and basically just going around playing with Strongholds. There was a lot to see here, so I highly recommend you check out the video, which I've linked in the show notes, for yourself, because there's a lot of stuff to go over. But I'm just going to pick out a couple of the bigger points that matter to me. First off, they've gone with the hook system, which has been used in other games. Lord of the Rings Online has used it. I heard WildStar had used it for a while, and then they finally decided to go away from it. And a lot of people are upset with the hook system. Basically what it is there are a bunch of predetermined spaces that you can place your decorations. So you can't just place your decorations willy-nilly wherever you feel like, put a table right in front of the door, and put a whole bunch of chairs up and down lining the outside of your apartment. You can't do that. What you can do is break these hooks up, so there are several different configurations of hooks. And these configurations can be various different things. It could be one really big one, break it down to 10 really small ones. There's maybe one big one in the middle, 4 smaller ones on the outside. There's a lot of different variations, and it looks like each of the hooks can be put into these different configurations. So there's definitely some play there. In addition to that, a very underreported feature that I've noticed is the fact that you can rotate and kind of shift the decorations that you add to your Stronghold as you see fit. So if you want to put a picture up upside down, you can go ahead and do that. If you want to put your picture off kilter a little bit, you can do that too. So it seems like there is a lot of play that maybe these other games didn't have, which I think has caused a lot of people to be skeptical at first, but after seeing the video, I think a lot of people understand where they're going with this. Now, it definitely has still upset the people who wanted a fully just place anything wherever you want. You can put stuff upside down if you want. You can just be a hoarder and throw all of your stuff into one room and pack it so that you can barely move. But to me, I feel like this system is actually going to be better for them, and here's why. There is definitely such a thing as too much customization for a lot of people. A lot of players walk into a big open environment and they don't know what to do with it, so they just don't do anything. Some people who have played Minecraft for the first time go in there thinking about all the hype that the game has gotten, how cool it is. They pick up a couple blocks, they build a tower, maybe they build a house, and they're like, well, I'm done, there's not much for me to do. I don't really know how to go about doing the cooler things that people are doing, so I'm not going to do anything at all. So to avoid that, I think that giving players some kind of direction with these hooks is an important first step to getting the player who might not want to do Strongholds and might not be interested in Strongholds to get in there and try it out for themselves. If you see a big hook right in the middle of the room, it makes sense that there will be a table there, maybe some chairs around it. That gets the player started. It gives them a base to grasp onto, and maybe they branch out onto, hey, there's a big one, a big hook on the wall. Maybe I should put a picture up there, or something like a light. There's obviously hooks on the ceiling, which are pretty cool, that are actual light sources. Change the lighting, how it works in the room. So I'll throw a light up there, that's pretty cool. And then they gradually get introduced to it. And that, I think, is a good way to get some players invested in Strongholds. I also think that limiting some players is also a good thing. There are the players that want to just have a hoarder Stronghold and throw all of their stuff into one area, put it all in a room, and really that's not the purpose of Strongholds. Yes, there are some players that may want to do it, and I don't begrudge Bioware for not allowing players to do that, because really that's not the intention of the system. Yes, I'm sure there are people who are very upset that they can't just dump all of their mounts and pets and everything right into their living room and see how slow the game lags when they have all these items loading it at once. But that's not really how Stronghold should work. Overall, I was pretty impressed by the number of hooks, which is definitely a good thing. If they're going to do this system, then they definitely should at least give the player the ability to place anything they want in anything that makes sense. What does upset me is the fact that they said, by design, that you will not be able to do things like place a mount inside your house, or place a sand crawler. They said, yes, there are sand crawlers in the living room of your stronghold. And that, to me, I don't think makes sense. I get the fact that you don't want players just bombarding a room with everything, making it look stupid and tacky and just ridiculous. That I'm fine with, but I think there is some merit to players who do want to put something crazy and wacky in the middle of their living room. That to me is what Stronghold should be promoting, not the pack rat mentality of the hoarders out there. It should be promoting the person who wants to do something out of the box, something crazy with their Stronghold. Within restraint, obviously, of the hook system, but I think the players that are doing those cool, wacky things are going to have the most interesting Strongholds. And I think that also goes to the point that Stronghold scoring should not just be based on how much stuff can I pack into this Stronghold. If you're already kind of pulling back on the reins of Strongholds by limiting the number of places people can put things, and you don't want to encourage that pack rat mentality, then why encourage it through the scoring system that just says, obtain as much as you can and throw it in your Stronghold? I don't like that as much. I think they should definitely have some kind of player voting component to your score. I visit your Stronghold that you've put on the listings, and I say this is a really cool Stronghold, so let me vote this one up. Let me give this one a 10 out of 10 score, and then factor that in somehow. And not just, oh, I've accumulated this much stuff. I must have the nicest house, because I think that the nicest houses will not necessarily be the ones that have the coolest stuff. I think it will be the ones that come up with the coolest ways to use the hook system to their advantage. How they position things and orient things, and I think there is definitely going to be an art to that. I think that the players who are complaining that the hook system is going to limit creativity, I think are the ones that aren't creative, because the most creative people are the ones that come up with the coolest things within the restraints that are given to you. The most creative people aren't the ones that are going out and doing the wacky, crazy, ridiculous things. It's the people that subvert their own limitations and do something really cool. That's the most interesting to me. And I think that is the real core of this Stronghold system as we know it and as we've seen it. It's making the best of the system as it is, despite its limitations. So I think they should open up things a little bit more. I think that all hooks should be able to be used for anything. Maybe there are some clipping issues, but I think that allowing players the freedom to put anything they want, anywhere they want, within the hook system is limitation enough. And while there may be some wacky, crazy, oh, I put 6 sand crawlers in my house, I don't think that that is the cool one. I think that the person who figures out the perfect spot to put a sand crawler, maybe they put the sand crawler next to the hollow of the Jawa companion, Blizz, that's his name. If they put the sandcrawler next to Blizz and they have some Tatooine sand or something on the ground in a room, I don't even know if that's a thing, but I'm just spitballing here. If there's like sand on the ground, you have the Blizz companion standing there with the sandcrawler next to it. Doesn't matter that that's in the living room. I think that could make for a cool Tatooine style area. And there will be a Tatooine Stronghold, which we should see next. No, they said Coruscant next week. There is going to be a stream this Thursday where they will go into the Coruscant Stronghold and go in depth on another subject that they haven't discussed yet. I don't know what it'll be. I'm gonna guess it's Legacy Banks. If I had to make an educated guess, that's what it would be. But overall, I think the people that are against the hook system are just looking for something to disrespect. I think some of those people are the ones focusing more on the restrictions where there is a possibility for creativity. And I think that the creative will still have the ability to make something really awesome, show it off, be on the top of the leaderboards, hopefully if they make the right corrections to that system. I've been asking them about that. I've asked a couple times through Twitter and emails to try and figure out if there will be more community-based stuff in the Strongholds, but so far, no answer, of course. But other quick hitters before I finish up this episode, because I know I'm running a little short here. Like I said, it's hot as hell. I was shocked by the fact that the devs that were on the stream did not know if you could duel in your Stronghold. To me, that would be a bullet point of features of your Stronghold. You can duel here. It seems like the perfect place for players to get together and have dueling tournaments. It's such a social place, and dueling is such a social activity. It just seems like peanut butter and jelly to me. And the fact that they didn't know that, whether you can duel or you can't, makes me a little sad, because that just seems, like I said, like a perfect match. And then finally, the other thing that did kind of upset me is the fact that it almost felt like they were kind of concealing the fact that you couldn't sit in your strongholds. I know they did eventually come out and explicitly say you cannot sit on the couches and chairs in your stronghold, but the fact that they were using the /sit emote to kind of virtually sit makes me a little sad. I mean, I know that sitting chairs were kind of a contentious thing and they just kind of happened to work on your player starship, but I feel like that's a core component of what you do in your stronghold is sit around and RP a little bit. Even if you're not an RPer, I think that players want to sit in their stronghold. I for one, I'm not an RPer, and I would love to sit down on a table and just kind of chill. Because I think anyone who plays an MMO is an RPer a little bit at heart. And that's just a minor little thing that made me sad and kind of upset me. And that's what I thought about the live stream. Hopefully we get a little bit more information on another system, maybe the Guild Bank system. Guild Stronghold system, Guild Capital, Guild whatever. Hopefully we get more information, alright? That's what I'm hoping for. Whatever it's on, whatever. And with that, it's time for the Wall of Crazy.
What? That's impossible even for a computer. It's not impossible. I used to bullseye womp rats in my T16 back home. They're not much bigger than 2 meters.
And in this week's Wall of Crazy topic, I asked on Twitter, what is your burning question that you still have after the devlog and live stream for Galactic Strongholds? I got some very good answers on this one, so we'll start off with probably my favorite answer. David at RI_Kiri says, how much of a benefit will it bring to crafters short-term and long-term, and will they continue to make it beneficial for them? That's a great question, and I had completely forgot that crafters would be involved with the decoration system at all. And it makes sense. They announced that the decorations, although not consumable, would have a number limit. So if you want to put 10 shares in your Galactic Stronghold, you need to get 10 shares. That's great news for crafters. So it's not like the die system where you buy one die, you put it in your chess piece, and you never change it out. Only if you change gear do you need to change that die piece out, die module. So that kind of killed the die module boom that was there for a tiny little bit, even though most of the good dies are on the cartel market, not in the Stronghold, and was never really great in the first place. But I think that is great news for crafters, and they should be very excited about that. And I am very excited to see exactly how the crafting of Strongholds will go when it goes live. Maybe that's what we'll find out about in this week's Twitch stream. Next up, Tornoob at Tornoob says, not much of a question, but I'd love to see a video or teaser of Droman Kasa's Stronghold. Yeah, I think Droman Kasa's Stronghold would be interesting. I personally, being a puppy, would love to see the Coruscant apartment, because Coruscant is amazing. I mean, how can you not like Coruscant? Huge apartments, flying cars. I can't wait to see this week's Strongholds video or Twitch stream. Spencer at The Dirty Spoon says, what are the room limits for TAT, DK, etc.? Will they ever expand the room limit? I really want some cost on decorations. Alright, cost on decorations, I am also very interested in that. The room limit, also a great question. Will we ever see rooms added onto these Strongholds? They do look pretty massive. I was very surprised by that. That was the biggest takeaway I had from the Twitch stream, was just how big these Strongholds are. They are enormous. They have garages and terraces and extra rooms, which they use dev commands to get to, but that's another story. But yeah, I really want to see the costs, and I really want to see if they'll ever increase that room limit, or do some other kind of expansion. Maybe you can pick what you add to your Stronghold. Maybe they have a couple different room layouts that you can add through a special door. I don't know. We'll have to see about that. Technoscald has a great question also, and he says, how do you get multiple items that come from achievements? As I said, the items that you get for your Stronghold, you need multiples to put multiples down, so how do you get multiples of items you have from achievements? I'm going to assume, and you know what happens when you assume, you get everything correct always, so always assume. I'm going to assume that you are only allowed one item for your achievement things. So the Datacron thing that they showed that had all the Datacrons on a table floating there with glowy stuff, I'm going to assume that that is only available once. You can put that in one spot and then you're out. But like I said, just an assumption. Next up, Viz of Mognation at Mogviz says, how much will the Tatooine cost at base level? The Tatooine one was a surprise, and boy was it a great one. That place looks awesome from that short teaser they released, and I can't wait to see, like he says, how much it'll cost, and actually what, can you put stuff out in the sand dunes? Is that how that works? I can't wait to see that place. Marshall Carr at Darth Pops, who did a great job on our TeenCast this week, says, what will we be able to put in the legacy storage? Bound items or only legacy items and crafting mats? And how pricey will it be to unlock? Great questions there. Those were all excellent questions, and thank you very much for asking them. And I can't wait to see more, just like I'm sure you guys can. And that'll do it for this week's episode. As always, if you'd like to contact me, you can send your questions, comments, and concerns to gadicteague@gadicgaming.com or tweet them to @gteague on Twitter. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes to get your weekly podcast updates, and if you're new to the game or thinking of resubscribing, I provided my refer friend link in the show notes, so if you like a little added incentive to come back, feel free to use it. You can also check out my website, gadicgaming.com, where I post the podcast, blogs, and any other gaming stuff that I want to put up there. Make sure to send in those emails on topics you'd like covered in the show. Do you have a burning question like the great ones I got on Twitter that you want to hear my opinions on? Send it over, and if your email gets read on the show, I will send you a nice little pet code courtesy of Bioware. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Unnamed SWTOR Podcast. This is JD, signing off.